Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of Good News with Kev and Danielle. We're your host, Danielle.
And Kev.
That's us. It's great to be back here with all of you. Before we kind of dive into this month's episode, we just want to really thank each and every one of you who've been liking the videos, have been sharing it on social media, and who've been commenting. Really means the world to us. We just love connecting with different people here in our city and even different people all around the world. And so it's been so great.
Yeah, we're really glad that you're here with us this particular episode because we're talking a little bit about Easter and some of the kind of funny things that go on in church sometimes at Easter time that can be really hard to necessarily understand if you've not grown up in church.
Absolutely. Easter is one of those kind of weird holidays. Can we say that?
You can.
I can. It's my show. I can say whatever I want, I guess. It just gets edited out later if it needs to, right? Like Easter, Christmas Eve, those are kind of like those big traditional kind of celebrations here, at least in our part of the world here in Canada, you know. And I think a lot of times there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of different things like that play out when it comes to those kind of big holiday religious celebrations. But what's funny about Easter, you know, so when we think of our family, you know, like I'm a pastor, right? So I work on Easter. It's, you know, kind of a thing. Danielle is also on staff as an associate pastor here at the church and as a chaplain in our community, right? So we tend to be busy on Easter Sunday. So we don't always get to do the normal traditional things that families get to do on Easter Sunday, right?
We need chocolate. No, I'm just kidding. We're not.
Need lots and lots of chocolate.
For us, we don't get our chocolate bunnies.
Right.
No.
Right. And what's fascinating for us, and we'll probably have to do kind of a video one day, kind of sharing our coming to faith stories one day. I think that would be interesting to, you know, for people to understand. But sure, we grew up in homes where we went to church from time to time, you know, growing up as kids. It wasn't a huge part of our family upbringing when we grew up. It was there, but it wasn't a big thing. But when we became kind of really, you know, devoted to our faith and started attending kind of church, you know, really regularly to help us grow in our faith, we'd come into these things on Easter Sunday. Remember that first Easter Sunday when we walked into church? On that Easter Sunday?
We were walking through the halls. We were dropping off our kids at the Sunday school and doing all sorts of things. And I don't know
in the nursery, because they were babies.
They were little.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could count the number of times that somebody kind of popped up in front of my face and went, "He is risen!" And I'm like, who, what, where?
We're looking like, what are you talking about? Like, we had no clue what this was about.
In that church, there was a proper response, and that was,
"He is risen indeed."
But we didn't know.
We knew he was risen because
yes.
we were talking about the resurrection of Jesus on Easter Sunday.
We knew that part.
So we knew he was risen, but we had never heard one of those things before, right?
He is risen.
He's risen indeed.
So that's what you do. If somebody says he is risen, you say he is risen indeed on Easter Sunday.
Yeah, and then of course I went home and started flipping through my Bible because I like, where does it say you're supposed to do that on Easter Sunday? Like, I like to know what it's written in my Bible, because if it's written in my Bible, then I'm going to do it. But
and good to know why we do what we do. Yeah. So that's just one of those traditions, right?
It's one of those really weird things. So what are some of the traditions that we've had to develop in our family because of us being pretty busy on Sunday morning in our roles?
Well, I can think of a couple of things. One thing is, I do not host Easter dinner for my family.
No, because we've tried that before.
Because we're a church family and we're the holders of the keys and we are the first in and the last to leave. So we just don't have the time for the preparation. So I typically do a nice Thanksgiving dinner. But
the non-religious holidays. We'll feed you on the non-religious holidays.
But on Christmas, my sister-in-law tends to do it. And on Easter, my sister tends to do it. So that's a real help. Yeah. But the other thing I'm thinking about is the whole Easter Bunny thing.
The whole Easter Bunny thing.
Right. So if you've got kids and you have the Easter Bunny that comes by your house,
right?
You know, like when we were when we had young kids and the Easter Bunny would come to our house, we had to decide from year to year based on what time we had to be at church the next morning as to whether to let the Easter Bunny know to come before church or after
we
church.
had to check the Easter Bunny's Google Calendar to see when they were available. Their shared calendar that we have with him. Because, if we had to be at church at 7 a.m., well, we're not getting up early just to wolf down some chocolate. Well, I did, but I didn't want the kids to be up that early.
Well, you needed to preach, so you had to, it was coffee or chocolate.
Exactly. A little bit of prayer, a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of caffeine to help me get through it. But so we always had to figure that out. And it was fairly successful.
Yeah, like we just told the kids, and it was actually, I think I preferred it when we had our Easter egg hunt coming back from church, because then our kids were manageable at church. And
that
not
too.
like
they weren't all sugared up.
Their kids zone teachers crazy.
That's true. That's a good point too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And some of the other traditions that we've had to do on Easter as well is one of our family members occasionally has a birthday on Easter Sunday.
Oh, isn't he cute? It's Kevin.
See how I slid that in, that little friendly reminder. Now it's not this year.
Actually, there's something very, very interesting about that, because Kevin has an uncle who's born on April the 11th. Kevin was born on
was he born on an Easter Sunday?
Either way, April the 11th.
Right.
You were born April 11th, and your niece was born April 11th.
So my uncle, myself, and my niece are all 3 generations
pretty
on that
crazy.
day. Yeah.
And in Kevin's family, Kevin was born on Easter Sunday.
That's right. Yep.
His sister, who was not born on the same date, which I think hers is March 24th.
Right.
She was born on Easter Sunday. So
I'm very, very holy family.
So speaking of Easter, there's an Easter outreach coming up.
Yeah, so here in our city of Ottawa, there's an event happening on Wednesday, the 31st of March, which is called Capital Hope 21. It's an online event, so you don't have to worry about physical distancing or anything like that, or masks or hand sanitizer. You can watch it from home. And they have a couple of speakers, and they're just going to be talking a little bit about the hope that they have in their faith. And because of their journeys that they've been on. One is a businesswoman and just kind of sharing some of her experiences of life and some of the challenges and hardships that she's faced. And the other speaker is a former professional football player in the Canadian Football League, who now serves as, I believe, as a coach or a manager now.
So I think he was a coach, and now he's the manager. His name is Michael Pinball Clemens. And I'm sure you have heard of him because he's big in the football world and he's got a big smile.
Yeah. If you're a big football person in the CFL, which I'm not, because I'm a huge football fan.
Huge fan.
Huge football fan.
Kev, you watch football.
I do. I watch it religiously.
Every
year.
Every year. That's right.
Once a year.
Never miss it. On Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
That's right. So we are real Super Bowl fans.
We're Super Bowl fans.
So unfortunately, we don't know as much about CFL, but I think football is the one that has that oblong ball.
Pretty much.
And they have like people that kind of go back and kick it and they throw it and
Something
they try to move forward.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, you did really good.
So I'm sure you know a lot about football, and we actually have Jon Ruby that might talk a little bit about it. He's going to be joining us on our show. He knows more about the footballing than we do. But in any case, bottom line is Michael Pinball Clemens. I think you know his theme song.
Sure plays a mean pinball. I don't think that's officially his, but ever since I've heard his nickname, I can't stop singing.
We'll be walking around the house, and suddenly I'll hear Kev singing, "Sure plays a mean pinball."
Ever since I was a young boy, I played a silver ball. That's all I've been, anyway.
And all of a sudden I'm like, you're thinking about the outreach event, aren't you?
No, I'm thinking about Elton John songs.
Okay. In any case, one of the things that I've noticed, a lot of people we've met this year, we've seen people looking for hope. So if that's you, if you're looking for hope, or if you know somebody who's looking for hope, invite them out to this event online. And we would love, love, love to.
Information about it is in the description here of the video here on our channel. Okay, great. So now I think it'd be a great time to segue over to our guests.
Yeah.
You're going to be really, really blessed by our conversation today, whether you are a churchgoer or not. And I think especially if you're not a churchgoer, if you're someone who doesn't go to church, you don't believe in God, things like that, I think this is going to be really eye-opening for you because we're having a special interview happening with two couples, and they're good friends of ours, and they just like how we pastor our church here, they pastor churches here throughout our city as well. So we have 3 pastoral couples talking together about the pandemic, about isolation, about fear, about church, about digital, online ways to connect with people. And it was a really great conversation. So I'm really excited to present to you Jason and Yvonne Parks from Vineyard, Ottawa, and John and Vikki Ruby from Union City Church. And we know you're going to be really blessed by this time together.
So let's do that.
Great.
All right, so welcome, guys. We're so glad to have you guys with us. We have Jason and Yvonne Parks. Just wave a hand so we know who's who. And we have Vikki and Jon Ruby. And we're so excited to have you guys with us today. These are good friends that we have known for some years now, and so glad to be able to do this interview. We will start off with you, John, because we just talked about Michael Pinball Clemens, and you saw how much we knew about it, and I think you know a little bit more. Can you share just a bit about your experience?
Was he the golf player you said?
Exactly. No. You're helping us out a lot.
Olympic, no, he's a football player in the CFL, played for the Toronto Argos, and now he's a GM, and he's an amazing communicator, and he's going to be in an Easter event that we got coming up.
Cool.
And so he's a beautiful smile. That's what you'll see first, and a great communicator. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we're looking forward to it as well. We'll be a part of that as well. And so we really do encourage everybody to take part in it. It'll be a really, really fun time. All right, we'll get the interview underway.
Very cool. Well, again, it's so great to have you guys here. It was great sharing a meal with all of you tonight too. Like, eating in person with friends. What a novel idea. This year, the terminology I have been using describing this year has been hard. Like I think sometimes we use terminology like, oh, it's unprecedented or it's crazy. It's been hard. It's been hard on so many different people in so many different ways. And here we are now 1 full year, since this kind of pandemic has gripped the world and gripped ministry. And as faith leaders here in our city and in our community, I just want to kind of start our time together. Like, how are you guys doing? Like, how's your families? How have you guys been doing and coping this past year?
Maybe I'll kick it off. That's a great question. It's a big question. But no, I would say for me, my experience being in lockdown or quarantine or all the different words we can use at home, I actually have found a greater joy in being with my family. I just was able to spend so much more time with the kids and Yvonne, and we've both run businesses from home for years. So there wasn't a big transition there, but just to have it all there all the time, certainly had an effect to it, but the takeaway was to see the kids responding in a healthy way. I would say that would be my first reaction to it.
Yeah, I think that any crisis is going to bring out deficiencies in whatever sector you're in, whether it's a marriage, whether it's the kid, whether it's emotional stability, your spirituality, a business, whatever it is. And that's what brought out, that was the fun stuff with us. It's really was challenging in a way. Everybody's at home and cooped up, and trying to get along was a beautiful thing. So we bought boxing gloves.
I think for me, my season started actually long before COVID. And so I had a big life change before COVID started, and I had already planned on taking a year off work. My job ended, and I wasn't looking for another job right away. And I really saw a lot of stuff coming up in me that I didn't necessarily expect or really know how to deal with. And so it has been a really intense year for me personally, working through my stuff, which actually has been really good. I actually started intentionally, trying to figure out, why do I feel anxious all the time? Why can't I fall asleep at night? Why are these things going on? And I think before I was able to really dismiss them. And in the quieter pace, I had a lot more space to really press into God, and I went to rehab.
That's great.
Basically, I feel like I spent a year in rehab.
Appreciate your transparency and your honesty with that, because I think it's so crucial as leaders and as people who are in roles where we care for others, and our self-care is so crucial.
Yeah,
Right.
it really is. And the biggest thing that I noticed was I have a cup of capacity and I felt like there was a bunch of rocks in it. And so my capacity to emotionally handle stuff was greatly diminished. And I think at the beginning of COVID, I was filled with a lot of self-pity. The self-pity came up a lot because we were involved in so many things and so much effort was put out, and then it's all crushed and it's all nothing. And then I'm trying to figure out online and cameras, and I'm seeing these guys do awesome things. You guys doing like lights, and I'm like, I'm sitting at our dining room table with a piano and a Bible. And I'm like, oh my goodness, some $10 webcam that I got at the secondhand store. And
Which, believe it or not, we were watching you guys going like, wow,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
so
but it's
intimate.
Deep, and we love it so much.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think self-pity was a big challenge for me, and
Right.
that was fun stuff.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback off of what they were saying, I feel like I heard a lot of people this year say things like, COVID has been really hard on marriages or hard on relationships or hard on anxiety or hard on mental health. And I don't know if that's that's entirely true. I think what happened was that when life stopped, we had all this time and COVID shone a spotlight on things that had already been there.
Right.
And there was these ancient cracks that we've just rolled over with the busyness of life. And COVID caused us, I think it was a gift, if you know how to receive it and walk through it, to have those things highlighted by Jesus and walk through them instead of just letting them shut you down.
Right.
So it is so true that mental health issues are huge, huge right now. However, I don't think that they're brand new. I think that they're just things that we just didn't have time with the self-care that we have now.
Right.
Well, for some of us.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And so as we share, so as pastors here in our city in Ottawa, like, so us three couples, we're all pastoring churches kind of in different parts of the city, different communities that we care for and that we do ministry in. So what have you seen to be some of the kind of the greatest needs and challenges in your congregations or in your part of the city where you're serving?
I'll jump on that. It's probably not unique to us, but certainly just something that we're seeing with our community is, depending on the age demographic, although it isn't necessarily dependent upon that, is isolation. The frustration over, just being alone or being told what to do, having your control kind of taken away, in a sense, your freedom taken away in that physical sense, but also the struggle to maintain connectedness in a virtual landscape. The modality of work has changed. The landscape of work is completely different than it was, and whatever's next will be different as well. It's not going to be back to, it's going to be back to, and then some sort of hybrid state. And so we still have a ways to go. We're not going to flip a switch when the vaccine hits everybody, and then all of a sudden so dealing with people's emotional state, mental state, even physical state around that has been, kind of what we see as the challenge. But maintaining that connectedness through whatever we can. We just did the Valentine's Day. We couldn't really do anything significant. So, but what our team, gathered like love care packages and delivered them to like 80 different households, and it was just like just with this little letter from God and some chocolates and whatever, but it was just something to achieve that connectedness, because that was where we saw greatest need.
Right.
It's particularly hard. We have a lot of people, a lot of seniors in our community. And so if you don't have technology, you are completely on an island.
Right.
If you don't have Zoom, if you don't know how to, if you don't have Facebook, you don't know how to log on. When you're older, it has been devastating. So us younger ones, we've got our phones, we've got all these ways to connect. But when you are particularly, older and not tech savvy, it's been devastating for that part of the community.
That's a good point. Yeah, thank you.
I think there was tangible needs initially that, I saw and thought. We did groceries. I was doing groceries for 4 households at the beginning, because we had these single moms that, what are they supposed to do with their kids? How are they supposed to go get their groceries? And so, and then I think that after a certain point in time, people become maybe hesitant or, relying on that, or it was hard for people to continue to accept that kind of thing. So, but we did that for, I don't know, a long time. But I think tangible, there is a lot of tangible needs that isolation is a huge factor. A lot of our community, they take public transportation, and that's really scary for people. Fear has just been huge. And so I feel like right now it's a lot more one-on-one. There's a lot of churches that are very good at doing some of those tangible reach out things like, hey, we see you, but it is a lot of one-on-one. I think there's a lot of that's needed for people right now.
And so in this, I'm sure that you guys have seen bright spots and people showing resilience in one way or another. So we highlighted the challenges, but where have you seen some of those amazing things that you're just like, wow, I've seen some resilience here, people coping in this?
Those who have embraced the online thing, we've seen, we go to recovery meetings. I am involved in a 12-step recovery program for codependency. And, we would have 6, 8, 10 newcomers every week, sometimes at the beginning. And these were people that had never been to a 12-step program before. We connected with a recovery group online from the States, and there's like 80 to 100 people in these meetings. And then there, we were just like, what is happening? And I know that those kind of numbers too are happening with lots of churches. We talked with a pastor the other day. They are getting amazing online engagement. They're having, so for people where online engagement it works for them, or they've accepted it or surrendered to it. There's a lot of richness that can come out of that. And I think some people have really dug deep, and just said like, God, there's something else out there, and a lot of people have been searching and really hungry for an answer more than just their daily life. And so I've had a lot of really amazing conversations with people and seen some really beautiful stuff come out of like, I actually don't want to live like this anymore. And I want to do something different. And I need God to do something here. I need a miracle.
So in terms of, like, you were talking a little bit about some of the vulnerable populations and people that you've been reaching, but overall, when you think of our communities, and you guys all talked about that isolation being an issue, if somebody were to connect with your church, what could they expect in terms of the type of help or resources or anything at all that you might have to offer to them to help with that feeling of isolation?
I can take this one. And so we meet as a church online, and we do it as so we have a small group at the church itself. And so I actually had someone reach out to me this afternoon and say, I had someone who wanted to come visit Union City. Are you guys meeting? So I said, I have a small group, and this is who would greet them. And, there's going to be 5 to 10 people. They would be more than welcome. And those people, the people that are there they're amazing and very welcoming. And then we have a small group on Zoom. And so we put that out there. Anybody can join on Zoom. And then after the service, feels like such an official word for what happens, but just kidding. It's a conversation. So after the service is like officially over, that small group stays on Zoom and talks about what the 3 people talked about during the service, what the text was. We also have we've started a Wednesday noon group. And so for us, we use the language of recovery a lot, but really, what happened for us is when we grew up in church, but when we came back to church, we knew we couldn't carry secrets. And so for us, we just need a safe place where we can be vulnerable and talk about our struggles and talk about our hurts. And so we have people that are in recovery for drugs and alcohol. We have people that deal with mental health issues. My journey has been more about, we use the word codependency, but focusing more on others than, and letting them define my life and being completely absorbed in other people's problems. And we have people that are overcoming pornography addiction, cell phone addiction, just a variety of things, but we can all gather and we talk on Wednesdays at noon. It's open to anyone. We have a short speaker and then people have an opportunity to share. And I had a moment, a few weeks into starting this where I heard someone share and I thought to myself, I bet that person has not said, I have a pornography addiction to a group of people, maybe ever, And so for me, it was like a really pivotal moment because I can be a little bit discouraged about, the numbers and how many people. And then I realized like one person that matters so much for that one person.
I just wanted to encourage you, if you're listening, you need to go to their church.
No, you need to go to their church.
No, you need to because
for everybody.
We have our 10 people.
because average. Let me just be general. I don't want to be generalized, but I'm going to. The average Christian might go, "Oh, that's nice. That's a recovery church." If you're thinking that, you need to go because we all need to be in recovery. Some of the stuff that they deal with sounds like really serious, but you know what? We're all screwed up. We all are broken. We all need to be in recovery and dealing with our stuff. I want to say a different word there, but I didn't because I'm being responsible. We all have to deal with our stuff. And so I so love what they're doing because they are serving not just a recovery community, they're serving the entire community. And so if you're a Christian who thinks, well, I don't have any addictions, you do. You just haven't, really focused and figured it out yet. But yeah, I love what these guys are doing. I'm so inspired by how they pastor and how they just give of themselves to the people that they're serving. And so I'm just like, we're just their biggest fans. And we have been friends for a very long time. Vikki and I have been friends for, what did we say? 32 years, which makes us feel so old. But no, they're the real deal, you guys. So
Thank you so much. And, like the more I go in my recovery, I realize like God has designed us in a beautiful way to be faithful to each other. But God has designed us, I think, all of us to be addicted to Him. And we are born separated from God, and we're trying to connect and try to connect. And that's the whole thing with connection is God has made us with a spirit. And so we connect with everything else. And then when we have enough pain, we're trying to go, okay, I need to connect to something that's actually going to give me power and not take my power.
Yeah.
I think one of the things as a leader in the faith community, I hate saying that, but we do lead a faith community, is praying about the emergence of coming out of this into something different, and just thinking of where the community's at, and knowing, for example, a lot of families with children are just like really hesitating to come back for a lot of obvious and good reasons.
Yep.
And everyone has their own meter for what their return looks like. And so as a church leader, I'm praying and asking the Lord about how do we call the community back together so that we're not just calling them to the building or to the service so that the coffers get filled and the machine can start up again. Now there are practical things that we do need to do well, and of course we have those dynamics too. But asking Him more about how do we call people from what has been very easy to slip into a preference mindset. We could sit home on Sunday morning and dial up 10,000, 100,000 different churches and feed ourselves and be very content just to stay in our jammies and sip our coffee and watch someone else's service. And then when it is time to come back, how do you lovingly, responsibly, without being too heavy-handed, without the wrong motivation, how do you call people back to gathering in presence, both presence with the Lord, because there is a corporate blessing when we gather. Yep. And yes, that does work through the electronic airwaves of the internet. And I love that most likely before the foundation of the earth, God knew that. But there is a commanded blessing when we're together physically and also with one another physically present. There's something different. And so how do we call people back in the right way, in the right time, so that they feel safe, but yet they also feel challenged to kind of shake off the dust a little bit of the season of preference.
Absolutely.
And step back into, because the world out there who's been living in the same pattern we have, with the same mental wellness issues, with the same struggles and isolation, need hope. And if we aren't the ones on the front end of that, with that hope, because we've called them back, where are we going to be?
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
we
great.
jokingly said it, but it's true. The season of pants has come. Like it's true. Like we all
We will not conform to the pattern of the world.
there was this laziness and lethargy sank in.
Sunken.
I'm having a John moment.
Sankin.
Sunk in when people realized that they didn't have to take a shower and get dressed and go to church. They could just chill out at home, and it's become kind of this sleepiness.
Oh yeah.
And so we want to lovingly call them back and like say, put your pants on. Like come to
Pants on, church.
Wow. What
That
a
was great.
Oh, what a great interview with them. It was so great to hear from them and how they've been dealing with all these challenges and struggles this
Absolutely.
past year.
I could talk to them for hours.
It was really good, really good. Yeah, and I hope that for some people, like, I mean, it might open people's minds to think of church isn't necessarily what they would expect. Like even when you look at John and Vikki, you know, like ministering to people through addictions,
Right.
it's pretty amazing. And so if you haven't gone to church in a while or haven't, you know, experienced what church looks like in a pandemic, I encourage you to go online or check out a church and see what it's all about. Because I think you'll find it inspiring.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah. So I think we're going to move on to our end clip.
Our final segment of this episode.
Absolutely. And we don't have a name for it yet. I wish we did, but we got a couple of suggestions, but nothing, you know, really.
Nothing popped
Nothing yet.
Nothing, so,
But it's going to come, I'm sure it is. So keep going with your ideas. What it is we're going to spin the wheel.
yep.
And then wherever it stops, we're going to watch that particular clip of a video.
Yep.
And
Hopefully it's funny or cute or good news, something like that. We'll kind of comment along and hopefully just have a good time together as we wrap up the show.
right. So please put in the comments or in the chat with your ideas of what we should call this segment of the
All
show.
right. So let's spin the wheel.
Spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel. Do, 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 do.
Okay, what are we landing on here?
We got Work It Willis.
Work It Willis.
All right, let's check
see
out
what
Work
that is
It
all
Willis.
about.
Here we go. So here we got,
A mascot?
so is this green
Is
guy
that
Willis?
He looks like That's so, oh my gosh, he's really got the
Hey, he
moves.
dances like me.
Yeah, just like you, honey.
Almost. He's
Love it
almost
when
as
we
good
go
as
to the
me.
weddings and there's
He
work
looks-
it like Kev.
That's the way I walk down the street too. That's the way I walk to church.
Going to church.
I'm about to preach. Oh yeah, see? I don't have the belly anymore because I've been working out. Oh!
Pass it on.
That's nice.
Oh my goodness.
He's got the moves.
I don't know if he knew he was doing that when he got up this morning.
I don't know if he did, but oh!
Wow.
Is this guy an ump
That's so
or a
cool.
manager
You know,
or one of the janitors, like one of the custodians?
we were laughing,
Oh my
but now
goodness,
I'm
that's
seriously
awesome.
like, we're not worthy.
That's so good. Or he's security.
Oh, awesome.
That's hilarious.
So which
oh my
one is Willis?
I don't know, but
mascot
that
or
guy
the
was
security?
awesome. That was so good.
Work it, Willis. Yeah, that was nice. That was good.
Yeah, I
I
think-
was really impressed.
I think the mascot just lost his job.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it just
So-
got replaced.
Kev, do you want to do your demonstration?
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
No, okay, I'm
So
glad.
You got to come to church to see that.
All right.
Mic drop.
All right.
Anyway, so that is it for this month's episode of Good News with Kev and Danielle. Again, we just so love that you're a part of the community here. Again, subscribe, like, share, get the good news that so many people need to know about, that there is hope for everybody, and we just want to be light in our community.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us this
Right.
month.
So if you're part of the church already, share it with your friends that don't necessarily, come to church or know what we do, because this is a really great episode to learn a little bit more about what church even is during this
Absolutely.
time.
And happy Easter, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you again next month. God bless you.
God bless.